Here's a weird content strategy for musicians who don't have new music right now.
Jesse Cannon, music marketing strategist, explains how musicians go from 0 to millions of fans.
Are you refraining from posting content to focus on creating more music? I totally get it. But here's the secret no one tells you. Your old tracks can still do heavy lifting for you, even though they're old. Seriously, we're seeing so many different artists have huge success promoting old songs on this platform. Instead of disappearing and posting that big things coming picture of you in the studio every week, why don't you just use this time while you don't have a new track to promote one of your old songs from your catalog here and there, and try to think of new spins on it, or try to do one of those videos where you ask what genre this is, or compare it to other artists and try to get it to a new corner of the algorithm where people can find it. Find a fresh part of the song you haven't promoted yet and push it out there and see what works. Here's weird tips for perfect song visuals. Why isn't your content hit as hard as your music? Your video should depict the same emotion and vibe of music behind it. I know that seems obvious, but you'd be surprised how many artists miss this. If you have an incredibly sad song, why are you dancing in the video? If it's a party anthem, don't shoot it in a library. Film it in the settings where you want your song to be attached to and played at. Take Gigi Perez's Sailor song. It's extremely depressing. So what does she do? She films in bed, by the ocean, places that cast vulnerability, rejection, or feel like depression. It's not just pretty scenery, it's smart content that aligns it with the emotion of her song. When your visuals match your song's emotions, you're creating a full sensory experience. It's also not about high production value. It's about capturing an emotion, and the emotion should be what always comes first. Great advice is your audience should be able to tell the song's vibe from just the thumbnail, and really, this is some of the thoughts that go into the songs that go viral, and when you're thinking about what you're missing, this is often it. How to connect with musicians who are fans in 2024. I've been hearing talk that music tutorials don't do well anymore, but teaching your fans to play your songs will always be a thing. Whether it's posting guitar taps, sharing a production element, chords, vocal riffs, anything interesting about your music and then showing it in your song so people start to hear your hook will always help it and help build bonds to your pre-existing fans. But here's a few key things to note if you're going to create a tutorial about your song. One of the biggest hurdles is having the tutorial be approachable. A lot of people feel like they can't learn a song unless they're using expensive gear, no music theory, or have extensive knowledge about music software. So having it beginner friendly, even if the song's a little complex, allows almost anyone to tap in and learn how to recreate your sound. Though sometimes the gearheads in your microgenre love a challenge to learn. One of the best hacks is to slap a by popular demand on it, since it makes people feel like they should already know this conversation and know the song that's happening. How visual consistency helps artists to stand out. I discuss the importance of visual consistency in short form content all the time when I dissect artists every week on my members only feed. But one of the things I think so many musicians miss is that the artists who are doing really well these days tend to create content that's similar with slight alterations using the same location and outfits. From a branding standpoint, having the same background, outfit, or even content style is super important since people start to recognize it and then they follow you when they like it. There's a reason that I wear usually the same hat style, glasses, and shirt style in almost every video and have this distinct looking microphone with me in many of my videos. The more recognizable you are on social media, the higher retention you're gonna have. People see an identifiable post and go, oh, it's that person, I like what they did before. I remember them, I should follow them. The more you can do to be recognizable, the better. But don't let it hamper your creativity. I'm about to do a whole series of videos in different format than what I normally do, and I'm not really scared about it. But a great example of this is Jacob Collier, who's got the hair and colorful, crazy pants. It makes him really recognizable, and that's part of the cheat code that got him so big. This is the most effective short-form video strategy musicians ignore. The concept of relatability is one of the most effective ways to engage people on these platforms and grow a fan base. Yet a lot of musicians don't fully understand this concept. There's been a ton of research that shows when fans feel a personal connection to artists that they can relate to, that they support them more. And here's the general equation for how this works. The more your audience relates to you on a personal level, the more invested they become in your success. We all know by now that vulnerability is your edge as an artist and deepens the emotional bond between you and your audience. So sharing your personal life challenges, telling stories, your thoughts and opinions builds a stronger relationship between you and your fans that makes them want to root for you more and talk about you all the time and spread the word about you. So the more relatable and genuine you are, the more your fans will be inclined to support and follow your journey. Do musicians lose fans by over-explaining their songs? A lot of artists are promoting their song by explicitly telling people what the emotion is behind it and explaining how your song is supposed to be interpreted. In some cases, this can actually ruin your growth. When you tell too much about your song, it can limit someone's takeaway from the music and make them not feel as much of a connection to it once they know exactly what it's about. But being vague allows people to draw their own meanings, or saying what your experience is and making it just a little more broad. As an artist, you have to decide which of these sides is right for you though, because there really is two sides to the argument. Because if you say exactly what a song is about, oftentimes it can give a deeper connection. An example of this I always think of is the first time I watched the TV series The Leftovers, I didn't really care for it. But when I found out each season is about a different way the world sees depression and how to understand depression, I realized the whole show was a metaphor. I loved it and went so much more deep with it. And this happens with songs all the time. Ultimately, it's one of those things where you could argue both sides to the argument that's telling too much can build a bond, but telling too little may not make a bond. And so oftentimes it just helps to consider which way you're gonna go and go with one. The secret to growth is to embrace your microgenre. What is your microgenre? Because it's not pop, hip hop, metal, rock, country, or EDM. Tons of artists I consult with who are trying to escape algorithmic jail are all making the same mistake, using broad hashtags. We've talked about how to use hashtags effectively before, but none of that advice is going to work until you really understand your microgenre. Adding hashtag EDM or songwriter are insanely useless, since the number of users involved under those hashtags are in the hundreds of millions. There's a saying that the marketer Coco Moco says, the more niche you go, the more you'll grow. You need to avoid promoting yourself under these huge blanket genres like alternative, pop, when you're actually making like PC music or glitch rock. Research what other artists who are similar to you are using as hashtags and then look under a search of that hashtag and see if you belong there. Ever wonder if being funny could mess up your music's vibe? Using humor in your promotional content can be a great tool to go viral with your music, but it can contradict your song's emotion too. I always think of the metal band Red Fang, who, made serious metal music, but had really funny comedic videos. But I remember talking to one of the members years ago and they said that the humor in those videos got them discovered by so many people. And then I think of like Phoebe Bridgers, who makes the saddest music on earth, and yet all she does is joke about it all day long. You just need to consider how humor will affect the emotional reception of your music. Some people need to be dead serious. And mixing emotions can sometimes create a weird experience, but it can also give you depth, and a lot of people appreciate that depth because most of us contain multitudes. Here's a weird content template that no one talks about for musicians in 2024. One of the biggest cheat codes for musicians on this platform is this weird content template. Talk about a prompt and demonstrate it in your song. Often these prompts are just on-screen titles. For example, if your song has amazing ad-libs, you can title your video, "My favorite thing is in those final choruses where they add all the cool ad-libs," and then showcase that part of your track where you're doing just that. Adding a prompt that highlights a cultural perspective, some weird trope or humor related to your music, and then showing it in your song is a huge hack for engagement. Literally, if you have an example of something in your song, whether it's rapping about peanut butter or singing about butterflies, show some butterflies and bring that into your videos and it'll work way better. Here's a strange tip for posting multiple videos daily. A lot of people ask me, what are the downsides of posting multiple times a day on these platforms? Besides the workload, I don't know that there's really a downside. If you can manage it, go for it. But there's a lot of people who do a heavy posting schedule to great effect, and I've seen it blow up for a lot of people. But what's interesting, and what often works well for those who do more than one post a day, is that they often engage by replying to comments and responding to other artists' videos, since that engagement tends to create a circle of content that gets people sucked in, and then they see more of their videos because of the way the algorithm works. This engagement tends to perform well rather than just posting two of their own music videos and lip syncing their song. It's like showing the algorithm that you're a community member, and it really does work, and we all know that the people who do lo-fi content like replies, hi-fi content, and mid-fi content on here are the artists who do the best on these platforms. The strange power of storytelling for musicians in 2024. Your music is more than just your songs. It's stories. And there's plenty of storytelling to share about what goes on behind the scenes, or about events in your life. The ultimate way to make people care is by sharing stories. Gigi Perez got this right with her year in review video that she made. It wasn't just about her music, it was about her journey. But you're probably wondering what makes storytelling for musicians such a powerful tool. real. It humanizes you. It shows the work behind the scenes, the struggles and the victories, and then people relate to you and want to root for you and help promote you. And we've seen so many studies that fans support the artists they feel closest to. So if you're deepening your relationship by telling your story, well, you're going to get more support and you're not going to be just another artist on a playlist. Here's an odd Reels strategy TikTok artists are using to blow up. I'm seeing a Reels and TikTok formula that's working for a ton of artists right now. Using TikTok as your experimental playground and Instagram as your highlight reel, using Reels, is really a thing a lot of the artists who are blowing up do. Here's the deal. TikTok's algorithm is hungry for consistent raw content. It's where you can post really lo-fi content and still get amazing engagement. Multiple posts a day, trying out different sounds, trends, behind the scenes stuff. And artists seem to have a lot more leg room to move around with different type of content to see what works best for them. But once artists find that sweet spot and that content racks up some high numbers, a lot of the time that's what they post to Reels. And on my members only feed where I dissect how artists are blowing up, this is one of the most common things I see. But I should say, sometimes it works in reverse. For some artists, Instagram works way better than TikTok, and you can do it in the total opposite way. But most of the time, the artists who are blowing up mess around on TikTok and highlight on Reels. How to use feedback to market your music.
Jesse Cannon, music marketing strategist, explains how musicians go from 0 to millions of fans.
There's a saying that we all have a sign on our back that everyone else can see, but not ourselves. So hearing honest feedback from others about what you're projecting is essential if you want to grow, especially since one of the most powerful ways to get short form videos to go off is to figure out the emotions your song gives and use that in the titles or the things you write that are like POV on your videos. But so many times musicians get confused by what they're projecting. So getting real honest feedback really helps. I now have a new Discord where you can get feedback from other musicians in our community, which has been really helping a lot of people. And this allows you to hear from others and gain an unbiased perspective on your content. Is the feeling from your video really negative? Does it come across as desperate? Well, that's what's holding a lot of you back, and I wanted to enable a way so you could get feedback. So feel free to join or go to a friend and try to get an outside honest perspective. Should you ever delete videos you post on these platforms? I have a surprising answer for you. TikTok is super sensitive to any action of this sort, whereas Instagram seems to be way more forgiving of this. I've experimented with deleting my videos on all the different platforms because sometimes I mess up an upload or I drop my phone and it posts all of a sudden without me being finished. And I have to say, from what I've seen, I'm now on the side of you should not delete on TikTok under any circumstances. If you really need to clear a post off your page, I recommend archiving your posts by changing the view preferences to private so only you will be able to see it. If you mess up on a post, it's best to just leave it up because if you delete and re-upload, you're likely going to get terrible views anyway. Here's the problem with posting unrelated content to your music account. This topic is often overlooked but is super crucial for musicians. Matt Bacon and I just recently did a talk where we talked about how making content that's off-brand can mess up your image. Posting content that has viral potential might be a good idea, but it could lead to people following you for the wrong reasons and tank all your music promotion videos. And this is a big deal because as a musician, you want your followers to be there for your music, not other reasons. So the key to make sure this content all ties back to you is you have to always think, what can I be doing where this ties back in some way to my music? You need to make a Venn diagram and think of, okay, if I'm making this comedy video that's really funny, how do I bring my song into it? And if you can't figure that out, well, you better make a comedy account because you're gonna get in a lot of trouble if it goes viral and then no one's there to see what you actually care about promoting.